diving back in to the informal series. I've built up the formal series a little bit, done some work there, done some thinking, and I'm gonna blow off a little steam here, do some informal stuff. So what are we gonna? This is gonna be a series of informal stuff. What are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about the pointer scanner. In the previous, I don't know, dozen or so videos, we went off on some crazy tangent. We were using Cheat Engine on Python, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it proved the point, but honestly, looking back on it, I'm kind of thinking that probably could have illustrated that in a better way. But anyway, it's too late now. After we talk about the pointer scanner and some of these, specifically, we're going to talk about the options associated with the pointer scanner, so that it's not all black box. Then we're going to dive into managed code. Why are we going to talk about managed code? Well, we're going to talk about managed code because the game we're using is Shadowrun Returns, and it's built on the .NET framework, or the Mono variant, whatever you want to say, and it uses managed code. And that makes it a huge pain in the ass to find values, especially if you have no experience with managed code. It's not even whether you have experience with it or not. It's whether you're trying to debug it by actually, or I don't even want to say debug, but just trying to find values with managed code. It's just a lot harder than it has to be, or maybe that's not even the right way to put it. It's just a lot harder, and we will see why. Because we're going to go in and sort of try and find a value, and we're going to we'll probably purposefully do it wrong, just so we can sort of ask ourselves the rhetorical question at the end: where did we go wrong? And then we will go back and see how we went wrong and why managed code sucks. Then we're going to find a pointer in an actual game this time, not some crazy Python interpreter. And then we will, if I have the time and whatnot, and or the energy, we'll jump into code injection and the or the data dissector, structure dissector, whatever you want to call it. So let's bring up our trusty Cam Studio window. Bring up our cheat engine. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to help. We're going to go to search. We're going to type in pointer scanner. We're not even going to do that. We're just going to go to the index. So it's not that big, so we should be able to find it. Yeah, as I say that, I can't find it. Really? It's a little ridiculous. Contents, memory viewer. It's going to be in here. Pointer scan. There we go. All right. So let's read a little bit about this. You can open the pointer scanner with the memory view tools pointer scan. Let's illustrate that. There's no way to get to the pointer scanner from up here. And if you have an address down here, you can right click on it and go to pointer scan. But that means you have to be hooked up to a process and scanning stuff. So you can go to over here to memory view, go up to tools, and you can see basically a list of all the sort of advanced, awesome nonsense that Cheat Engine provides. And what you want is the pointer scan. So you click that, it opens up the box. You can open up, different previous pointer scans. You can scan for a pointer if you're linked into a process and things like that. Well, let's actually leave that open because we're going to flip back and forth a little bit. We're going to use the hotkey, Control P. Nope, we're going to hit the wrong button. There we go. Now you can close the memory viewer, and we'll shrink this down a little bit. Right. If you start a pointer scan, a new window will appear where you can customize the parameters of the scan. This is the window. Pointer scanner, scan options. Typos, but that's fine. At the top of the window, you can choose to find a pointer for an address or value. Searching for an address is much faster, so is the default method. We messed around with this a little bit in the pointer scan, or in the series of previous videos. Below that, you can set the parameters of the scan. Usually, you don't need to change the upper part at all, especially if you have no idea what it does. I cannot stress that enough. These options right here are absurdly pedantic. They're absurdly esoteric. They're erudite even. I know maybe what a couple of these options means in a general sense, and I can maybe like no looping pointers. I imagine that eliminates pointers that point to themselves, and if you're going 10 offsets deep and you hit the 9th one and it refers to one of the previous 9 or something like that, then I imagine that this option maybe has something to do with that. But it's not important what I know or don't know here. The point that should be made, and this help file is basically probably whoever wrote this right here is making it a point not to explain these options, because if you don't know what they do, which, such as myself, then you will probably never have to mess with them. And there's many technical reasons why. At the bottom part of the window, there are other options that you may need to change sometimes. The number of scanning threads is working fine with single and dual core processors, but you may increase it if you have a better CPU. Generally, a decent rule of thumb is, at least just with threads in general, if you sort of buy into the usual nonsense about processors, is change this to whatever, how many cores you have, but I generally just leave it at 5. Occasionally, I'll bring it up to 8, but I don't really notice any difference because I do have an 8-core processor. The maximum offset value should be changed only if you suspect that any of the offsets will be larger than 2048 bytes or 2K. An offset like EAX plus 1F48 or similar, which is not so common for most values that cheaters are looking for. We talked a lot about offsets, and so it's probably, or at least I don't run into it a whole lot, where you're adding more than 2K to a base address or to a pointer. The max level of the pointer path is 5 by default, but some programs are using even longer pointer paths, so if you didn't find what you were looking for, probably you need to increase the max level. Here's what I will say about this. This option will molest your hard drive in a very brutal way. So again, I'm running this on a very small solid state drive. You can see right here, I got about 8 gigs free. That is absolutely nothing when it comes to increasing this value. I could do like a 5-level pointer scan with this. If we bump this up to 10, I'll have no hard drive space in about 2 minutes, because it's just searching so deep into pointers to pointers to pointers to pointers and doing so much crazy stuff that all the data that Cheat Engine is storing will just chew up my hard drive in no time at all. So if you have, terabytes of space and a really fast processor, then, maybe you want to bump this up to like 10 or 15 and go take a nap, because it's going to take a long time. But 5 as the default value is decent. You can find, most of what you're looking for. So, I mean, if you're using the pointer scanner and you're searching for values and stuff like that, and you just can't seem to nail it down, then it's possible that you just have to bump up the max level. And if you can't do that because of limitations such as myself with hard drive space and whatnot, then you need to find another way to do it. My preferred method on a stylistic approach is I like doing code injection. I just find it easier, especially because you can do like AOB scan, where I don't even care what the pointer is. Cheat Engine will just sort of automatically find it for me, and that's something that I'm really dying to get into in tonight or today, as I go through this series and try and be productive. But that's sort of what does max level mean? It's how many steps of offsets, as we were talking about in a previous video. When you add an address, we can't do it because I got so many windows open here, but when you add an address manually and then you click the pointer box and we were adding all those offsets, that's essentially what this is asking you. How many offsets do you want me to dig through in your whole address space of the process, um, to find the values or the addresses that you're looking for? And again, bumping this up to like 10, I mean, it'll probably eat 15 gigs, um, easy, depending on the size of the game you're messing with. For me, I bumped it up to 10 on Shadowrun Returns, and I ran out of hard drive space in about 2 minutes. So again, moral of the story: if you got lots of hard drive space and a decent machine, then by all means make it 10, and go have a couple beers and run around the block, because it's going to take a long time. Let's see here. If you typed in the address, blah, 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 you click OK. You have to choose a name for the pointer list. Yep, we saw that. If the scanning is done, you get a huge list of pointer paths. Not all of them will work for you if the address will be changed. Again, we're sort of glossing over this because we saw in the last series where we were trying to whittle it down by restarting it and doing other little things like that. Make sure to change the address of the value. We got that. Find the value again. If your pointer scan window was closed, open the save pointer list. You probably have noticed many of the found pointers pointing the wrong address. So you filter it. You have much less pointers. It may happen that this is important. It may happen that some of the pointers will fail to work from time to time. In this case, you need to filter them again until you find reliable pointers which are working for you in every case. Keep rescanning the pointers until you have found one that is perfect for you. There's no other way to say it, so I'm not going to bother restating that. If you wish to add a pointer to the address list, just double click it and it immediately pops up down here. So that's a crash course in the options that most people will have to worry about. I will point out that you could change the priority over here, but I would not recommend doing that. I mean, it's possible you get into, some, it's possible that you will have a hard time stopping that, um, is what I would say. And that's worth mentioning as well. If you start a huge pointer scan, or even up here, if you're searching like a massive amount, a huge process for zero or something like that, or search for unknown initial value, and or something like that. Canceling these kinds of scans in Cheat Engine is a bit dodgy, uh, especially with the pointer scanner. It'll say, stop the scan. Do you really want to stop the scan? It'll do the same thing up here. It is not the most reliable thing. And uh, a general rule of thumb is that if you cannot complete the whole pointer scanner or the whole pointer scan, then throw the entire result set out, because you have no way of knowing what is and what is not in that set. So if you had to cancel it, or if you ran out of hard drive space because you just weren't paying attention like I do all the time, then throw it out, start over, or go roll back to the previous scan, because it's garbage and you're wasting your time with garbage. So we used the pointer scanner in the previous couple videos. We've gone over more, some of the options, how to tweak the pointer scanner, and in the next one, we're gonna jump right into manage code and sort of go over that, and why it sucks, or why it's great, but why it sucks.